We have Ms. Tyra Avila, the city administrator for the town of Aguilar. Ms. Avila had reached out to me concerning some discrepancies with the gas billing amounts between the city of Walsenburg and the town of Aguilar. Just to fill those of you in that aren't aware, with our gas transmission line running in close proximity to Aguilar, we do provide natural gas supply to the citizens of Aguilar. Thank you for joining us this evening, Ms. Avila, and I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, Council. According to our records, there was a discrepancy at the end of last year into the beginning of this year. And we paid the two statements at the end of November and December into this year, which we had a balance forward of 0. And then we received the statement for the next following bill, and it said the previous balance was $31,425. We did not receive a statement from the city of Walsenburg for February, March, and April. And then we were charged from April the 4th until June the 8th. And we have all the audit trail reports that we get from the gas department. Taking all of this from the beginning of it to the end of it, we don't owe that money.
So how much have you paid total?
How much what?
Have you paid to get you to the 0? What did you pay to get you to the 0?
All of
Have that number?
the total.
Okay, but you don't have that number with you.
And when was that paid?
At the end of last year.
In December?
And I had a difficult time getting hold of somebody here in the office. I actually had to call your gas superintendent to ask him to come to the office to let one of the ladies know to call it. I did speak to Ms. Davis and we had conflict. I did speak to Mr. Moore. The emails I received from them were very inappropriate, I believe, telling me that town of Aguilar is irresponsible for not paying their bill. I'm not very happy with that. I mean, there is an issue. I tried to reach out. I sent them the information. Nothing was resolved. And then I got a letter from Miss Davis. I believe it was January 23. And when I spoke to Mr. Moore, he stated that the consumption multiplier was either a 1 or a 10. He was asking me, I don't know what your guys' billing is.
We would have to get that off the meter, wouldn't we? We'd have to know what the meter is in order to know what the specific multiplier is.
So there were several months we didn't
So if
see
you
the
refer
bill.
to this,
I'm sorry, we don't have any information, so,
Mr. Moore, was this?
oh, that one.
We
Okay.
have this.
So there was an email correspondence
What's a one?
between Mr. Moore and I. And he provided the figures showing as January, or less of the amount. The digits were 6 digits, and he was saying that the amount billed total was 4,471. On the bill that we received, it was 44,710. The information they provided me from their billing system, there was a month that everything was estimated, which we were double charged for that amount. Wait, that would follow the next picture.
So was the meter changed out?
No, there's no change to the meter.
So it went from a multiplier 1 to a multiplier 10.
The multiplier is not associated with the meter, it's associated with the billing system.
Right, and therefore it creates bad bills if you don't have the correct multiplier, right?
21 to 22.
Bad billing.
So on this report that you gave us from 18, 19, 20, 21 have a multiplier of 1, and in 22 it has a multiplier of 10.
So some of our bills have a 7-digit and some of them have a 6. And then at the end of November the 9th, I received a correspondence from the city administrator stating that we have a substantial amount due of 28,617.
So Mr. Moore, do you have the amounts that were paid for these years? You showed us kind of lists, but total amounts and when they were paid?
Those are the meter reads and the consumptions that you see there. The billing amount is not attached to that.
As of right now, we've paid $60,000 to the city.
What do you like normally pay? I mean, obviously you have a long.
Now, according to the warmer months, there's not any way that the town could use
But
66.
just like on an annual basis, what do you normally pay?
About 86,000, depending on if it's cold or not.
And the 60,000 that you paid, is that for the whole year of 2022?
No, it's partial of this year as well. The start of the one that we just paid was 22,226.49.
I must say, council's at somewhat of a disadvantage here, given the limited amount of information that was provided, in the city of Walsenburg, just this evening, and, really not, it's one thing to hear the numbers as you relay them, Ms. Avila. It's a whole nother thing to have these on, spreadsheets. I think it really helps, with, council's understanding of the issue. I suppose, to boil it down, what resolution were you seeking from this board this evening?
That the 31,425 be looked into because we were charged double at the end of November, December for an amount that's duplicate on there. On the statement that we received, it said it was estimated. Well, where did the estimation come from? And before that, where'd they get the previous balance from? And we didn't receive a bill for February, March, April. Then we received one from 4/6 to 6/8. Then we didn't see one for July, and it continued on with this 31,425. At the end of the year, though, when we paid November and December, our balance was zero coming forward. So where did the 31,000 come from?
Digest that first portion first, Mr. Moore, Ms. Davis, do you mind speaking to this $31,425 discrepancy and what communication you might have already had with the town of Aguilar and where this misunderstanding might be coming in between the two parties?
Initially, we received communication from Ms. Avila with the concern regarding the duplicate charges for the month of November. The city,
2022 or 2021?
that was, November of 2021. The city on apparently most of our meters does not have a read in November. And I don't know what that is. It seems to be across the system. So in 2021. So the city, of course, will give a customer an estimated read so that the next billing is not exorbitant. And that's a routine practice. It's a routine practice, and no doubt with the town of Aguilar's billing system. You don't want to burden your customer with a double charge 2 months later if you didn't have a meter read the current month. So we did issue an estimated read, as you indicate, and the subsequent billing that came following that did account for the estimated amount that was assessed. Our billing system, Cassell, that we use, usually calculates that properly. Since she expressed the concern, I did double check that. And I did actually run the numbers several different ways and provided the different modelings of those numbers to Ms. Avila to show that in fact there was no duplicate charge with the November estimated read. And she did not respond whether she agreed or had some other position to take on that. So I did not know that there would be any further concern on a duplicate billing issue. The next issue that Ms. Avila raised was the usage quantity. So that has been the most recent contest in the discussion as to how much are we actually billing for. And in that response, I referred to the multiplier because in 2022, at the beginning of the year, many of our accounts in the system were changed from a 1 multiplier to a 10 multiplier. That drops the 0 off the meter read number and still counts for that because these are big numbers. And we don't read one unit, 2 units, 3 units. The volume that Aguilar consumes is much larger. So dropping that extra 0 it wasn't necessary to carry it on the bill. I don't know that customers were notified of that change in multiplier, so it could be a surprise. You get a bill, it's missing a 0, it's gone from a 7-digit number that always had a 0 on the end to a 6-digit number.
Ours is always 6-digit before.
Changes the.
Well, regardless, the numbers change. We dropped the
that kind of-
last 0 in the number and employed the multiplier to calculate the usage, and it produces the same accurate billing as we had before. And the billing system that you use in the town of Aguilar would also incorporate multipliers. If you have larger meters, that's usually how you want to cope with them in your system for your billing process. So I did indicate that we had changed the multiplier. That's why the amounts that appear on the statement appear different. However, the consumption has not changed. And what I provided for you is the historical consumption of the town of Aguilar from 2018. So you have 5 years of history. And if you look at the history, you can see that the consumption, and I've also provided similar information to Ms. Avila. The history shows that the consumption is literally almost exact from month to month, from year to year. So would you care for a copy of that? Here you go.
And honestly,
Yeah, if you look at 2022, which is the year in question now, you'll see it at the beginning of the year, their consumption was marginally higher than previous years. And we did have that cold snap where Texas had the freeze and everything like that. So then as you go forward, February also had slightly higher consumption than prior years. And then as you roll forward, Aguilar's consumption is generally lower in 2022 using our standard meter read moving forward. The last column are the consumption values that Aguilar was proposing. And you see those numbers run about 1/10 of what we're billing in some of those instances. And that would be a result of the multiplier. If you literally look at the numbers on the statement, since the last 0 is dropped off, the numbers do appear to have changed significantly. So I tried to provide that explanation in the communication. We didn't receive a specific reply from Ms. Avila as to whether or not she had a concern about the multiplier or how she was going to account for the consumption level. Because of course, if we're moving this much gas to the town of Aguilar, Aguilar also has to be selling this much gas. So.
And I did comparable and I will email that to council and we're off.
So,
well, and if I may, counsel, as I said, I feel that we're at a disadvantage given the limited amount of information. What I think would be helpful for the board to help digest this issue is, of course, we'll have the video as record of this, but I think it'd be very helpful to have somewhat of a written, I don't want to call it an explanation, but a description of the issue from the city of Walsenburg as well as the town of Aguilar. And I really think with some of the additional information related to when payments were made and other basically proof the onus being on the city of Aguilar that these payments were made, we need some sort of a documentation to be able to make an informed decision. I just don't see us being able to really take any action on this evening, given the limited view that we have. Ms. Mace?
If I could just make 2 points,
Yes, ma'am, please.
just with the limited information we have. So first of all, I know Mr. Moore, you weren't here in November of 2021 when our billing issue started. What the city did is they estimated the gas portion from the year before. So if you look at 2020 November, the number that's there is the same number that you were billed for in November of 2021. They went back a year.
With that.
And then
Having
when
it.
December came through, that is what your the 45,000 was for November and December. It was a double read because our local bills were the same way. The bill should have adjusted, so I don't know what happened with the bill piece of it. But when I'm looking at 2022 and where you have a proposed number versus what the reading was, I find it hard to believe that you used a tenth of what it was when you look at your history of what was used in those cold months. That to say that the town of Aguilar only used 4471 in the month of January, I find that hard to believe.
I mean, it's not my place to make the multiplier.
Right, but I'm just saying, I mean, it's clear that you were using over 40,000 in the month of January.
Problem with that, what my problem is that between November and December, we paid all those and then come into the following year in January, had a zero balance. Coming to the statement that came in for January, we have a past due balance of 31,425. Where did that come
So
from?
I agree with the mayor. I would love to see all of these
And,
without them in front of us.
and very quickly, I think the multiplier is very important because if I get a bill for $100 and then you say it's a 10 multiplier and you either drop a zero or add a zero, that changes my bill from 100 to either 1,000 or 10.
But it kept
So
the
it's
units
very
the same.
important.
But it kept the units the same.
It kind of kept the units
No,
the
it
same
didn't.
except for,
It kept the units the same. The zero is really kind of not a number.
but I've always been told that that multiplier along with the meter is very important. Isn't that true, Ms. Barr? Because you have to make sure when you have a meter, you have the correct multiplier because the meters are different. They're not always the same. So they have to be configured right with that multiplier. That's a very important step, is what I was told.
That's what we've heard.
Depends on what size the meter is.
That's exactly my point. Why would you change a meter if a multiplier if you haven't changed the meter?
There's a room. And the computer people were here. They're going with those, we were fixing multipliers of different accounts, so they would bill correctly.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Anyway, if we could get the numbers of payments and everything, I think that would help. And I apologize to you. We'll get this figured.
Thank you for coming.
And also I do have one more complaint as well. We did have a check that returned and it was discussed between one of your city council members and a commissioner in Trinidad, which I think is very unacceptable. And it came out of this office. And so I don't appreciate that.
I'm sorry, I probably don't want to say who it was, but I apologize for that too.
Told you.
But if we could though, to take this up at a later date though, do you think that you might be able to have any documentation that you would like to provide to council? And then, of course, the city of Walsenburg can provide any documentation to council, preferably by the Friday prior to our next meeting. So
Next meeting.
next 21st.